Hello, hockey fans, and welcome back on into the neutral zone here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Well. Just when we thought we had this Stanley Cup Finals gone and figured out, Florida had to go and put an absolute beat down on the Oilers last night. That was so not the Edmonton Oilers game last night, but it is exactly what the Panthers would want to do in every game going forward. So which are we going to see? More of Game 3 or more of Games 1 and 2, both of which needed overtime to be decided? Who has stood out to us so far? Who have been the key players? Who have been the guys that absolutely need to step up if either team want to slam the doors shut on the other? Lots of Stanley Cup final talk on the show tonight. And then we've got a new head coach in Boston. The Bruins took their time, but they finally did it. But there's still going to be a head coaching vacancy in the NHL because Dallas went and fired Peter DeBoer. So we've got updates there. And then in the PWHL, we had the first ever expansion draft. How did it go? Vancouver and Seattle look good. We'll talk women's hockey as well. All that and more coming up right now. And hello and good evening, everyone. Welcome on into the neutral zone here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. I am Adam Karnick. Zach Puplis is here as well. We'll get to him in a moment. We've even got a special guest that we'll have on the show here as well. Lots to get to in the show here tonight, as you heard there in the preview. The first 3 games of the Stanley Cup Final. We've got 2 overtime games, and then, oh boy, have we got a lot to unpack from Game 3 last night. So we will dive into that, everything that's been going on there. We've got off-ice stuff as well, as we still, even after Boston found a head coach, we still don't have every single team with a head coach in the NHL anymore. So we've got to discuss that. And then the PWHL, even though Minnesota won its second straight title, we've still got stuff going on there. The first ever expansion draft, and then their rookie draft is coming up as well. So a lot to get to on the show here tonight. Not a whole lot of time to do it. So we're going to have a quick word from our sponsors. And then when we come back, be diving straight into the Stanley Cup Final. Do not go anywhere. This is the Neutral Zone here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Be right back after this. IE Sports Radio fans, this show is brought to you by Planet Jerky Premium Brisket Beef Jerky. Planet Jerky is the official jerky of the 2022 California League champion Lake Elsinore Storm, single-A affiliate of the San Diego Padres. This all-brisket jerky has gluten-free options, contains no MSG, no sodium nitrate, is low in sugar, and high in protein. Go to their website at planetjerky.net and follow them on Instagram at Planet Jerky. Planet Jerky, the jerky that's on a whole other planet.
rise and shine. It's 4 a.m. The stars are still out. The sun is beneath the horizon, but it's time to punch in and go to work. The comfort of your warm-ups turns into the grinding out of your reps as the clinking and the clanking of the plates create a symphony of euphoria. There's no other feeling like it. Earn it, burn it, and take what's yours. IE Sports Radio has proudly partnered with Vital Apparel, a brand that not only fits great, but also promotes and donates to mental health research. Use our code IESR to get 15% off their comfortable and inspiring gym wear and help them on their amazing journey to support mental health. Go hard, take part in your iron therapy, and be strong. Because when your mental health is as strong as you are, there's no telling how far you'll go.
Hey there, IE Sports Radio fans. Be sure to check out our sponsor, Seal the Deal Wax Seals by Cecilia B. You just finished your very own wedding or baby shower invitations and you're looking for that extra special touch? Maybe you just wrote a letter to a relative or a friend and you want to add to their smile when they receive it. Then seal the deal with Cecilia's handmade sealing wax stamps for your invitations, letters, and gifts. You bring the deal, we'll bring the seal. You can find them on Instagram at sealthedeal_wax stamps and on Facebook, Seal the Deal Wax Seals.
For the last 10 years, IE Sports Radio has been bringing you amazing content ranging from interviewing legendary athletes, coaches, and other authorized media personnel to building tailor-made shows dedicated to all major sports cities around the country. Make sure to follow us at IE Sports Radio on X, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube to keep up with the latest in sports and with all of our shows. Also, make sure to check out our daily updated website at iesportsradio.com. At iesportsradio.com, you can see our daily show schedule and check out all of our show pages with personal bios to learn a little bit more about each of our awesome hosts. In addition to our show pages, you can catch the IE Sports Radio blog, Hall of Fame, Fans of the Month page, and our merchandise shop, including t-shirts, tank tops, caps, long sleeves, hoodies, and more. For now over a decade here at IE Sports Radio, we've continued to be by the fans, for the fans, and we thank you all for your support and for making IE Sports Radio your direct feed for all that is sports.
And welcome back into the neutral zone here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Adam Karnick here with you. Zach Puplis is on with us tonight as well. And we've even got a special guest who's going to be along with us for part of the ride tonight as well. First, let's bring in Zach. Good evening, Zach. How are you, sir?
I'm good, Adam. How about you?
I tell you what, I am confused by what we have seen from the hockey so far, but we will get into it here in a little bit. You heard how to follow along with the station by all the social media on all the social media at IE Sports Radio. This show is also available for you on social media. We are at IESR Neutral Zone on Twitter, or you can follow along with me personally. I am at Adam_Karnick. Zach is at The Puplis. And if you are watching tonight across Facebook or YouTube or Twitter or Twitch, Drop us a comment. Let us know that you're here. Taryn Rodriguez is here. Good evening. Hope so. We have an amazing show. And then we've got our Colorado guys just saying, go Avs, go. Not going to be talking a whole lot of Avalanche tonight, but we will get into some of that a little bit once the regular season wraps up. And then we've got a guest on with us tonight as well from Boston. He is Brian Francione. Brian, how are you doing tonight, sir?
I'm pretty good. Adam, Zach, nice to see you guys. Even though the Bruins didn't make the playoffs, there's a lot of news around the Bruins on and off the ice right now, and we'll get into that for sure.
Absolutely. Looking forward to that. They finally hired a head coach. It's amazing what happens. And apparently they weren't going to be the last ones to do it. We'll get into that a little. We'll get into that a little bit as well as we get into it. But we need to start this show off. Since we don't have any games, obviously we're not talking scores tonight, but we've got to talk about the Stanley Cup Final to this point. I thought this show, to me, had a very different opening, a very different introduction about 25 hours ago. And then game 3 started and happened and got played. Wow. I know that sometimes a change in venue can produce a very different result, but wow. We have had in Edmonton. We had 2 overtimes, 2 clutch comebacks by the Oilers, one that resulted in an Edmonton win, another that resulted in overtime. And then, all right, Florida won. And then we switched down to Florida, and oh my goodness, a beat down from the Panthers last night. So let's start with game 3, and then we'll kind of do the series as a whole. How does something like that last night happen, where Florida just pounced out to the lead and refused to let go for the entire game? That looked like, that looked like Florida versus a non-playoff team last night. Yeah, San Jose or Chicago or, Boston. One of the non-playoff teams. Yeah, Boston or Detroit. What on earth happened last night? Zach, can you explain that to me, please?
Best thing I can think of, Adam, is, like you said, change of venue. So they realized those first two games at Edmonton were super close. One went to overtime, one was double overtime. And they knew hey, we got to make hay while the sun shines. So let's blow them out at home when we've got the advantage, because, they sure ain't going to get anywhere in Edmonton unless it's, scratching and crawling and just being super tenacious.
Yep, absolutely. But then Florida jumped out to that big 4-1 lead, and the game was only 25, 26 minutes old. And Edmonton then switched to this strategy of, well, we have to get the next goal. And the easiest way to get the next goal is to get on the power play. So let's try to trick Florida into committing a penalty. I swear, Edmonton spent the entire third period on the penalty kill. Brian, have you ever seen anything like that?
Not at all. To be honest, the Stanley Cup game I can remember is years ago, when every time the Vancouver-Boston series was in Boston had a huge advantage. So both first 2 games were incredible, but since we're talking about the third game, I know the first goal scorer all too well. They throw rats on the ice for him down in sunny Florida. But then again, it's not only 1 year, but 2 years in a row. Not only is it back-to-back Stanley Cup Finals, but the mileage between 2 cities, one all the way south of the U.S. equator, one all the way to the left of the Canadian mountain area. They have over, I think, 6,000 miles between the 2 teams. And games 1 and 2, you have plenty of rest to game 1, so that might have made a huge difference. And obviously, that's where the Florida advantage helped them. because Canadian people aren't from. Yeah, the weather's nicer now. It's almost June, but I think since it's more winter in Canada compared, obviously sunny Florida, there's no snow, but that might have made a huge difference. Maybe it affected Skinner's mentality too, seeing that packed all red Florida Sunrise area.
The ice was definitely an issue in the game last night. The puck was bouncing. It was really jumpy. Let's face it. It's what, June 9th, and we're effectively in Miami. Yeah, it's going to be hard to maintain a level, clean sheet of ice in Miami in June. You know, there's no secret there. 140 penalty minutes that Edmonton had last night. It's just, and it got to a point last night where they had not one, but two game-stopping brawls where it was everybody on ice was fighting with somebody else. You had so many game misconduct penalties.
That's like 8 players receiving 10-minute misconduct penalties.
Yeah,
that's insane.
It was over the final 10 minutes of the game. You had so many guys effectively get ejected. I really thought the refs kind of lost control of the game at the end there, where it's like, okay, but at the same time, is what do you do? Edmonton clearly was all the Oilers were interested in doing at that point was fighting. It was we're upset, we're mad, we're frustrated, we're getting our butts kicked, and our strategy at this point is to just try and get a penalty. And Florida wasn't having any of it. Florida knew exactly what to do. Now we've got 2 games in between. We've got 2 days in between game 3 and game 4. Interesting scheduling choice because they're already down in Florida. Normally they'd be turning right around. I
idea why they did the schedule. Sorry to interrupt you, Adam.
No, go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
No, usually you do between games 4 and 5, but the thing is 2 things. The NBA game 4 is tomorrow. Game 3, I mean, for the NBA Finals is tomorrow night. So obviously you don't want to go head to head. And plus, don't forget, Saturday up in Canada, that time slot's very important compared to the U.S. It's like football on Sundays here. And CBC or Sportsnet, whoever owns the rights to the Canadian NHL, they're not going to want to miss have an opportunity at least one Saturday. They're not going to miss a Saturday to broadcast the Canadian team.
That's very true. That's very true. Yep. That you've got to get the scheduling right in there. But so as a result, we've got this extra day in between. So Zach, I'll start with you with this question. Does the extra day off between games 3 and 4, does that give Edmonton a chance to cool off and realize that, oh yeah, we have to play hockey to beat these guys? Or does that just sit and fester and then we're just going to see the Stanley Cup final version of the Four Nations face-off between the US and Canada, where we're just going to see nothing but brawling and fighting when they drop the puck in game 4?
I think it just really depends on their mentality. Like if they do it right, they'll be like a quarterback throwing an interception. Okay, you got to have a short memory and just forget about that game. Let's think about game 1, game 2, how close we were in both of those. We won 1, we lost 1. And I mean, the second one went to double overtime. I mean, again, anything can happen. So there's no shame in losing that second game. So you got to be able to have a short memory, forget about game 3, just get back to the things that were working for you. Make sure you're doing your practice and all your drills and everything. But then, you're absolutely right. If they go about it the wrong way, they sit there and let it fester and they just dwell on it, that could be the exact opposite effect. And that could snowball into a loss in game 4.
Brian, what do you think? Does the extra day between game 3 and 4 help or hurt Edmonton?
We'll obviously find out when the puck drops Thursday night, but I think it could help Edmonton because think about it. It's not that often teams like in the Mountain Time Zone, they'll play Vancouver, Calgary, another Western Conference team. Not that often they go to sunny Florida like a team like the Red Wings or the Bruins or the Rangers do, because they're in that same division, because the mileage is very high, and the Oilers were jet lagged compared to the Panthers. They're home in Florida, and they fly. They're so used to having road trips and flying back, playing home, as they proved the past 2 years if they've been having 5 consecutive playoff berths at least. I know their first year where they knocked off the Bruins' historic season all too well, but they're a tough team and they were prepared for it. And that's where the crowd benefited, home ice advantage benefit and stuff like this. Not so much the first 2 games, but it was rowdy in sunny Florida. They used to playoff hockey now, and it got in Edmonton's head a little, because think about it. They got 2 of the best players in the world in McDavid and Draisaitl, but Panthers have Bennett, they got Verdigee, they got Marchand, Matthew Tkachuk. Those guys love to get physical and get in people's faces, and the crowd really helped them compared to a jet lag with Edmonton. I think game 4 will be a lot closer like the first 2 games, because they'll be settled in.
And that's a perfect segue there, Brian, because next I wanted to ask, who has stood out to you guys in this series so far? Who are your early front runners for the Conn Smythe? Zach?
I want to say Corey Perry for the Oilers. He's now 6th in all-time playoff goals. And then for the Panthers, the one that's near and dear to Brian's heart, Brad Marchand. Probably the best trade deadline pickup of this year.
He made history too in this series that we'll get into in a minute, but he had a historic stretch there between the end of game 2 and the beginning of game 3. He became the first player in NHL history to score an overtime winner and then turn around the next game, score in the first minute.
Oh, there you go.
So he's having himself a nice cup final. Brian, who stood out to you so far?
So this one, obviously, you guys probably took my idea. For the Panthers, it's obviously Brad Marchand. For the Oilers, since you said Corey Perry, and Draisaitl and McDavid were great in games 1 and 2, especially Draisaitl game 1 overtime winner. But for the Oilers, just because someone stood out doesn't have to be a positive. I'd say we all knew this. Skinner, the goaltender of the Edmonton Oilers, because he went back to his old self last night, giving up like 3 goals in first 2 periods at least, and it was 6-1. And Brad Marchand, that's a difference maker. You get the game-winning overtime goal, game 2, and score the opening goal on game 3 last night. Like, of course that stands out. He's could be the X factor and determine the whole series, where if they still played each other in the Bruins and make that trade, it might have gone in Edmonton's favor.
Absolutely. It's for me, it's for the Oilers. Leon Draisaitl, he got blanked last year in this, a 7-game series. He was held without a goal. Yeah, that's hard to do. Credit Florida and everything with the Panthers and their defensive scheme. But you kind of had a feeling coming into this, it was Draisaitl was, okay, I'm not letting this happen again. And right away, I mean, bang, within the first 5 minutes, he's got a goal in game 1. It's okay. Draisaitl's come to play. Everybody kind of look out. Florida just kind of absorbed this opening 10 minutes, and then they can start playing. And sure enough, that's what happened. He got the game winner. For me, for Florida, another name that has really stood out to me so far has been Sam Bennett for the Panthers. He's been really, really strong. He had a shift last night where on the defensive side, he checks 2 separate Oilers off of the puck, then gets sprung on a breakaway and then beats Skinner to score a goal. He had himself a terrific night last night, and he's had a terrific series. And then one last one for me for the Panthers. It's a boring answer. It's an obvious answer, but Bobrovsky. Bob has been playing so well in this series overall. He's made some terrific saves, really has, especially in game 1 where the Oilers got off to such a strong start. He weathered that storm and just helped gather the team back together. And it's, hey, go ahead, guys. I'm going to keep you in this. We knew this was going to happen. It's fine. I've got it. You guys go play. I know that you'll be able to score. I'll keep the pucks out of the net. So I've really been impressed with Sergei Bobrovsky so far. I know that's a boring answer. It's an easy answer, but still, anytime you're having good success against the Oilers, you've got to talk about whomever is in net. And then Brian, you mentioned Stuart Skinner. Who needs to step up? Who has really got to turn this thing around? Brian, I know you mentioned Stewart. Have you got anybody else that to you is, man, you really got to step this up here if you want your team to turn this thing around?
It's one player, the supposed face of the NHL, similar to Crosby and Ovechkin, Connor McDavid, because he had his point streak ended last night with Draisaitl. One of them had 7 games, the other had 8 games. I don't want to randomly guess that, but I know that for a fact. If McDavid's himself that he was all regular season, and game 1 he had a nice play, even though he didn't get a goal and hit the post, he skated over 3 Florida skaters and defensemen to try and get the first goal in game 1. And if he shows up like that and the speedster going through the ice and can take advantage of line changes, there's no doubt it's a turning point for the Oilers. He's the best player for the reason. He's got to prove he's the next face of the NHL, similar to Lemieux, Crosby, Gretzky, Ovechkin, and the modern day guy. He's got to prove it. Second opportunity in a row. You don't get those opportunities often, so McDavid is an easy one for me to step up.
There you go. How about you, Zach? Who for you has got to start turning things around here?
Well, definitely Skinner. They even said, I just saw one of the headlines just now, and it was that Knobloch is undecided on who's going to start in goal for game 4. Ooh.
Here we go again. Here we go again.
Yeah. I get why he's undecided, but if Stuart Skinner gets back in there, it gives him another chance to prove himself, to get back to his, the way he was in game 1, game 2, at least being competent. But I'm gonna go with some of the background players for the Oilers, Matthias Ekholm and like Evander Kane. Just trying to get extra offensive defense for both of them. Like every little bit's gonna help, because they're gonna put so much pressure on Connor McDavid, on Draisaitl, etc.
That's really where I kind of wanted to go to with this. It was obviously Connor and Leon, they're going to be the superstars. That they're going to be deserving of all the defensive attention they get. Zach Hyman is out, so obviously that's a huge blow to Edmonton. But yeah, this is where you needed somebody like an Evander Kane to step up. That's okay. We're a man down. We know we're a man down. We need that third guy. I'm going to step up and be that guy, and not necessarily to stay within your role. Don't become a me guy instead of a we guy, but you need somebody to step up and be that third person for the Oilers. And they don't really have that right now. So that's kind of where I was thinking too, like an Evander Kane
or Nugent Hopkins
or Ryan Nugent Hopkins. Yep, exactly. Have some of that other depth, though. Stuart Skinner is low-hanging fruit. He's always going to be the easy answer of what needs to improve for the Oilers. Well, speaking of the Oilers, let's stay with that theme. It's 2-1. If you're Florida, this has gone basically perfectly to this point. Yes, they lost in overtime in game 1, but it could very easily be 3-0 Florida right now. If you're Edmonton, you're only down 1. If you're going to be down going into game 4, you'd much rather be down 2-1 than 3-0. So what do the Oilers need to do in game 4 to turn this thing around? Brian, let's start with you.
I believe if they want to turn it around in game 4, if it's all going to depend on, they talk about mentality of the goalies, how there might be a goalie change for Skinner tomorrow night, but I would do, if Florida gets up 1-0 tomorrow night, I would make the goal change from Skinner to their backup goalie because it could get into their head, especially if they get down to the first 2 goals. You don't know how it's going to go right away. And you also need Nugent Hopkins and Vander Kane to step up as well. Maybe switch the lines a little bit. Maybe for some power play, you risk it and go McDavid, Draisaitl, and Nugent Hopkins and Kane if they get a man advantage tomorrow and switch up the power play unit.
So you'd be making some pretty drastic changes then. You're making big moves at this point if you're Edmonton.
Yeah, because this game could decide the series for them. If they go down 3-1, they could easily lose not only 4-1 but 4-2 going back to Florida. And the Panthers have proven they can play in that hostile Canada environment. Especially they could have been up 3-0 by now for the overtime goal in game 1. So I would take a pretty big risk either at the goaltending from or switch up the lines depending on if they get a man advantage tomorrow. And the Panthers can get some penalties. Guys like Bennett is very physical. He can rub players the wrong way. They tried to start fights last night. And Marchand, I know very well, they called him a nose-face killer his first few years in Boston. He easily can get players pissed off. So they better hope that they're in Florida's head as opposed to Florida being in their heads. The mentality is going to make a huge difference tomorrow night.
I like it. Zach, how about for you? What do you see what changes would you make if you're Coach Knobloch? What are you doing?
Well, you just got to be able to stay away from Brad Marchand's tongue. That's all.
Well, who was it? Who was it for Florida last night? It was showing a lot of tongue too. It wasn't just Marchand. There was Gobchev was getting kind of tonguey last night too.
Oh, I didn't catch that. Nice. Get back to your mentality you had for game 1 and game 2. I mean, you played them tooth and nailed both games into overtime and double overtime. And again, try to have a short memory, forget game 3, and then do what we thought Florida did in some of those previous games. Guys, hey, okay, we're now in hostile territory. We knew it was going to be like this. Just calm down, take it, one period at a time, one play at a time, etc. And get your whole team galvanized for being in enemy territory for one more game, and get that same mentality that I'm sure Florida had going into Edmonton. Hey guys, all we got to do, we just got to steal one game. Just got to steal one game up here, and Edmonton just got to do the same thing in Florida, like steal one game, and the series will be even headed back to Edmonton.
Absolutely. I like it. And Josh Ritter pointing out was Gadjevich for the Panthers last night, who was displaying a lot of tongue last night, and the eyes too. The eye game from Gadjevich last night was outstanding. You didn't need to read any subtitles or anything. You knew exactly what he's saying. Speaking of Josh Ritter, watching over on YouTube, he absolutely stole my thunder with this comment. This right here, this is exactly what the Oilers need to do. Stop engaging physically. The Oilers lost their minds last night. Over the last 30 minutes of that game, they turned it into a boxing match. That is not how you beat the Panthers. You want to get physical? The Panthers will say, bring it on. Their coach literally in playoff games will remind the players, F the plays. I don't want us running plays. I just want them getting beaten into submission so that by the time we get to game 7, they have nothing left. If you are in Edmonton, you need to be moving the puck. You need to turn it into a gigantic game of hot potato. And when you've got Draisaitl and you've got Connor McDavid, who can literally get open from anywhere on the ice, he could go 1v5 and still score. That's what you've got to do if you're Edmonton. Lean in to your skill, lean into your agility, lean into your speed. Don't try to match Florida's physicality in this series. Turn it into a speed game. A lot easier said than done, I know, but that's where I'm at with Edmonton for what they need to do. Now, on the flip side, we'll do one more on the flip side, and then we're going to take for ourselves a quick little break here. On the flip side, if you are the Panthers, do you need to change anything? You're up 2-1. You could be up 3-0. You just had a bloodbath go your way in game 3. Zach, do the Panthers need to do anything differently or just keep doing the same thing?
Well, real quick though, my only caveat to your comment about they need to get back to speed and agility and everything, isn't that kind of what we've been saying about Carolina this whole time? Is though that's the way they play, is one giant game to keep away, and the best defense is more offense, and that clearly hasn't gone their way the last 2 years. So I'd be kind of nervous to tell Edmonton that, knowing that that's how Carolina's gone the way of the dodo the last 2 years.
Very, very true. That is a very good point. Yes, we saw what happened when Edmonton, we saw last night the perfect example of Edmonton trying to make it a physical game and Florida just going, oh, really? We love playing this way. Why, thank you for literally playing into our strength. You're not going to out physical Florida, so don't try. That I guess would be my rebuttal on that. But you make an excellent point there. That is exactly what the problem with the Carolina Hurricanes has been, is they've tried to out agility to Florida, and Florida just completely out muscles them every year in the playoffs. You're very correct. You're not wrong at all.
So I think what the Panthers
I don't think the Panthers need to change much at all.
Yeah.
I don't think they need to change much, but if I were them, I would be less into the physical part with like Bennett and Tkachuk and try to design plays for Verdicky. And Sam Reinhart got his first points of the Stanley Cup Final last night, a goal and an assist. He was outstanding. And he wasn't really there the first 2 games up in Edmonton. If they can design plays and less the physicality and try to get the first goal, they go up, like I said, for Edmonton. If the Panthers go up 1-0, 2-0, then they can get up tempo with the physical and they can get in the Oilers' heads to try and get in the penalties. The only guys that doesn't get in the Panthers' head is Corey Perry, because he's played for a bunch of different teams in the Stanley Cup Finals in his career. And he showed up. He got their only goal last night. So if they can get the first goal, it can be a huge difference. Otherwise, they don't have to change much except lean more into the offense for the beginning of the game to try and get that deciding goal.
Yeah. The one thing that I would say for Florida that the Panthers need to, I don't even necessarily say change, but improve upon, in each of the first 2 games, they really slacked off in the third period. They got to a point where they kind of took their pedal off the gas. They took their foot off the gas a little bit in the third period and let Edmonton really dictate the third period in each of the first 2 games. Last night, the game was over by the time they got to the third period. I mean, Florida opened the third period on a power play. Edmonton didn't get out of the penalty kill until there were basically, I think it was like 14 minutes left in the game, and Edmonton was finally done making penalties. And then 5 minutes later, all hell broke loose. So the third period last night really it's not a fair representation of anything because that game was so much over. So that'd be the one thing I would say for the Panthers is, if it's still a game going into the third, keep your heads. Remember that it's a 60-minute game, because they really haven't played. The Panthers, I don't feel, really have played 60 minutes of regulation. I can't really say a 60-minute game because they played an entire extra game's worth of overtimes out in Edmonton. They haven't played 60 minutes of regulation hockey yet in this series. So that's the one thing I guess I would say for Florida is you got to keep yourself mentally there for a full 60-minute game. And then let's see how they do. All right, let's take for ourselves a little bit of a break. And then when we come back, Brian, your hockey team finally decided to hire itself a head coach.
It only took 10 plus candidates, but we'll get into that after the break.
You know, they were being thorough. We'll just call it that.
Yeah.
We will get into all that next right here. You are listening to the Neutral Zone here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
That's sports. Woo!
We will be right back after this.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Davidson.
It's your boy, Dentarius Locke.
And we are the hosts of Fast Break here on IE Sports Radio, where we discuss everything in the world of basketball from prep to the pros.
You guys should definitely check us out, man. Sunday, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. We got all the basketball information you guys need, so we look forward to you guys listening in.
And please do, because we are the best basketball show on this side of the Mississippi. And please do check us out on Twitter at FastBreakISR. D-Lock, where's our time again?
8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. That gives you guys plenty of time on a Sunday.
Tune in.
Hello, sports fans. It's me, your boy Larry B, and I want to walk you through the world of sports. No, not just the mainstream major TV deal type sports, although those are important too. But let me be your guide through your journey of all sports, from college to the pros, the minors, and everything in between. Each week, we are talking sports galore with true diehards just like you from a hardcore fan's perspective that's sure to quench your thirst around leagues you may know all too well and some you may even discover here. That's right, sports fans. If you love sports of all kinds, enjoy hearing amazing sports stories, and respect all sports because you know how difficult any of them can be to play or compete in, then this is your show. Join me, your boy Larry B, on the defining moment each week here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports, and let the sports come to you.
And welcome back on into the Neutral Zone here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Adam Karnick, Zach Puplis, and Brian back with us here talking all things hockey. So we did a ton of Stanley Cup recap there in the first segment, had a lot of fun there. We've got some off ice news and some off ice things that we want to address, and it deals with Brian's favorite hockey team being from the Boston area, the Boston Bruins. Now, Brian, you had texted me like a month ago that it was, hey, when the Bruins hire a head coach, I'm more than happy to jump on Neutral Zone and talk about him. And I thought, great, in a week or two, we'll set this all up. And then it's a month and a half later. But finally, they went ahead. They went ahead and they did it.
Yeah, they only took supposedly Sweeney and Neely and the gang interviewed 10 plus coaches, as I found out today, as Nesson was airing the press conference that the Bruins hire former player for 5 years. And not only is it a former player, it was one of the most infamous, worst lopsided trades in NHL history that sent Jumbo Joe Thornton a year after the lockout, one of the worst years in hockey history, right to San Jose for a bunch of picks. And Sturm was one of those players. And they got but that sent former GM O'Connell packing. But Sweeney has gotten many more opportunities than O'Connell, Peter Chiarelli all put together. And they even gave him a 2-year extension. What a nerve. But I'm excited about this Marco Sturm hire.
Yeah.
I think it will be good for them. The players know him. He did say he wants to bring a cup. Well, technically every coach can say that. But of course, our new insider. You're welcome. At least we got a pick out of it, I guess. So the Bruins have 2 first-round picks in a few years. We got the next 7 years, we got 9 first-round picks, and we got the 7th pick overall this year. So it seems what we do. I want a damn center. That's what I want, because that's the heart and soul of the team. Yeah, Marchand got traded. He's a phenomenal player, but Patrice Bergeron was the real leader of this Bruins team, competing in consecutive playoff berths, no locker room drama. He was able to keep the morale high in the locker room, and he was one of the best face-off leaders of all time, leading the league in the Eastern Conference many years in face-off wins. And Pavel Zacha's all right, but he's not meant to be this number 1 center for the Bruins. So, and me and Marco Sturm, I watched some of this press conference today. Most notably, he left right before the Bruins won the cup, but that 2010 year, the team they blew a 3-0 lead with, they also played at the little place in the Yawkey Way called Fenway Park, which I was in attendance, by the way, sitting behind home plate, which was actually cheap for that game because the ice was in middle of the field near the Green Monster. And Marco Sturm got that game-winning overtime goal in the 3rd annual Winter Classic, and I DVR'd it at the time, or TiVo, whatever we had back then. And I saw the great Doc Emmerich call, score, and they were slamming across the glass. He also scored the game-winning goal, which made the Bruins back to postseason relevance after the first 2 years. They were non-existent in the post-lockout era. When they faced the Montreal Canadiens, who won the Eastern Conference at the time, we all thought they were going to get swept. This was the year before that, 2010, that 2009 game. He scored the game-winning goal to tie it 3-3 against Montreal. So, and obviously that game 7, they got destroyed because Carey Price had a phenomenal shutout. But Marco Sturm has had a lot of great moments with the Bruins. He has over 224 goals all time, I believe, and nearly the same as assists. He played for the Sharks, as we all know. I mentioned that earlier. The Kings and Vancouver to end in 2012. Speaking of the Kings, the guys in SoCal, where IE Sports Radio headquarters are, he coached their AHL team, the Ontario Reign, and they had a lot. And he was the assistant coach for the Kings. He must know the Oilers so well. After there's certainties in life, death, taxes, and the Kings Oilers playing each other in the first round.
Yes. Oh, yes, absolutely. So overall, obviously we're talking a young head coach. He's 46. He's got coaching experience, not necessarily at the NHL level, but he's coached the German national team, got them to a silver medal. He's coached in the AHL. What was your initial reaction on this? Is this the Bruins are back, or is this a signal of, okay, all right, they're playing the long game here?
I think it's a combination of both. We'll obviously have to find out once the puck drops in October, because there's a thing I'm more excited than not excited about it. But here's the thing that will make me not excited. And if you're a football fan out there, 2 words for you: Gerard Mayo, who has also had assistant coaching experience, and he got the first. That's what will scare me. I know they're 2 different sports, but that was a disastrous year, worst year of football I've ever seen. The year before, I thought, whoa, we just have to score points. We have the top 10 defense. And that's last season for the NFL said, hold my beer. And we all thought this season was bad because the Bruins were one of the worst teams, including your Blackhawks, Adam, with the worst post-Four Nations record in all of NHL. We lost like 10 games in a row. And I didn't think our roster was that bad, but they made a lot of trade deadline moves over last year and Sweeney's in hot water with the people in Boston. Like, people want him gone. They're upset he's still there. And you got to give him another chance, because last year, that what caught up to the Bruins is the lack of drafting, whether they traded their picks or tried to go all out a few years ago, getting Tyler Bertuzzi. He was awesome for us in the short stint he played, but we didn't make it past the first round against the Florida Panthers, and it was all history after that. And we lost a lot of picks, and we weren't able to develop guys. And the first round picks that turned out really good for us, including Jake DeBrusk, he got shipped because he caused a lot of drama. A lot of guys in the beginning of the year, which led Montgomery to get fired, but I don't think he really wanted to resign here anyways. I think he wanted to go to St. Louis in the first place. And if he was one collapse away from possibly challenging the Oilers in the Western Conference, if they didn't blow that 3-1 lead against Winnipeg, who knows how mad Bruins fans would be. It's bad enough we see Brad Marchand going all the way. But speaking of our new Florida Panthers insider, the new head coach will be better than Mayo. Not that it's a high bar. No, it's not a high bar right now. People think that Sturm is just a scapegoat for Sweeney, because people are making comments, they'll have a winning season and then they'll downgrade and he'll get fired and Sweeney will stay. So it is frustrating being a Bruins fan right now.
Zach, what were your thoughts? What were your thoughts on the hire when you saw it?
Well, he's right in our wheelhouse, making comments, how to relate the NHL to football or to baseball.
We do that all the time on this show. That's our trademark.
Right. Yeah. So he's familiar with the Bruins fans' passion from his days being a Bruin. His quote is, "The fans' passion pushes you." He saw it in a positive way. Such good memories here, and he knows the fans, as soon as they feel something that's good happening here, they will support you. The Sweeney says, in terms of hiring somebody that understands their culture, it's so important to have a coach who understands the fan base, who understands the values in their culture. 3-time Olympian. He led Germany to that silver medal, you said. He's got AHL experience. I feel like in this day and age, there's one of two ways you can go. You can grab a retread, or you can get somebody who's an up-and-comer. And so they went with an up-and-comer. Why it took them a month to do it, let's go with them just being thorough. But I mean, I wish him the best. I hope he turns out better than Drod Mayo. Gets more than one year.
Boy, do I hope you're right.
Yeah, that's my take on it.
I like that it's not a retread. We have so many coaches that are retreads in the NHL, and some of that's a self-fulfilling prophecy of, he won over there. Well, he won over there.
One of veteran coaches such as Mike Tortorella, Boudreau, Claude Julien, who used to be coach for us, obviously, they all wore out their welcome. So it was good on Sweeney to go with a guy who knows the culture in Boston. And Patrice Bergeron was at the press conference today. And Sturm said, they think they can make the playoffs, because think about it. What people don't realize, because of the downgrade of his season, I don't blame Joe Sacco at all. Obviously, he went to New York to join Mike Sullivan and the Rangers, but we lost both our good top two defensemen this year. Charlie McAvoy got injured in this controversial Team USA Four Nations problems with the Wild Athletic train. Sorry, Glenn, if you're listening, but and we also lost Hampus Lindholm, who led the league in plus minus a few years back. So if we're going to get those two back, obviously, when puck drops, and you got a lot of young defensemen like Mason Laurie did really well in the world tournaments this year, and Jeremy Swayman had a phenomenal World Juniors to win USA the title. With that mentality being gone, with him not worried about holding out, and I wish we could have kept Allmark and him to swap, I think give him another chance. I think he'll be a lot better than this year now that he's got the worst mentality, seeing all his friends get traded away and all that, not having Brandon Carlo, Trent Frederick, Charlie Coyle, and obviously the rat Brad Marchand. So I'm excited. I'm more positive than negative about this. You really don't know what to expect, but we could be back there. We have a lot of cap space, and we got a lot of picks. And we got a lot of young players, such as Wotherspoon, who finally got some playing time. Lysick, who's been our top Providence player, got called up towards the end of the season. Let's see how he develops next year. So be interesting. This team has potential to be one of the best or one of the worst. You don't know until the puck drops and the postseason comes, and let's see what's free agents are available. I know Mitch Marner will be. Not so much sure if I want him to pay that guy all that money. At least Matthews no shows in the playoffs, as we all know.
Yeah, stay off of Marner. He's coming to Chicago. He's going to be a Blackhawk. That's just the way it's going to be. That's the way it's going to be. So, well, Brian, thank you so much for hopping on and joining us tonight. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you, guys. And keep an eye out for my social media at EMADog617 and IESR_New England. I'll be attending the Sox Yankees game this weekend, and I'll keep a track any Bruins updates. I'll have short tonight on Sturm and whatever's going on. Keep an eye out. Thank you, Adam. Thank you, Zach. Be Mad Dog signing out. Woo!
All right. That is Brian Francione, our Boston insider here on IE Sports Radio. Appreciating him coming in. Well, Zach, let's real quick before we turn the page on coaching stuff. The Bruins weren't the last team to hire a coach, because apparently the Stars decided that making it to the Western Conference Final, that's not good enough. They fired Peter DeBoer. What did you think about that, Zach?
Careful what you wish for.
Yeah.
I mean, I think wherever he's been, he seems to be able to get him in the playoffs on a regular basis. Maybe not every year, but on a regular basis, and they advance at least a round or two. Whether it's been San Jose or Vegas or now Dallas. I'm sure there's another stop in there somewhere, but retreads, they hard to keep track of.
Right.
Yeah, I understand that they're underwhelmed with how they've been able to. Okay, I guess it just depends on how you see it. Has the team plateaued? Are they not listening anymore? Like, if the team's plateaued, they're not listening. Okay, maybe it's time for a change. But at the same time, he's gotten you to a high level, and I understand that you want to go get a cup, but I don't know who else is going to be much better.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at with this too. It's like, okay, you let Peter DeBoer go. I get it. Your standard is making it to the Stanley Cup final, and DeBoer's not doing it. Therefore, the standard's not being met. Then, boy, you better get this hire. Better be a home run, knock it out of the park. Absolutely. I'm not sure God forbid if they go out and get John Tortorella. Oh my God.
This situation, you better already have that person in place when you fire DeBoer.
No kidding. Exactly. This better be, you better, just like you said, you better know who the plan A is, and you'd better get plan A. This better not go to plan B, C, D, E, F. Don't do like what Boston did, where you're interviewing 14 different candidates before settling on your head coach. That for Boston, that's fine. In that situation, that's fine. If you're Dallas, boy, does that scream of, that would scream to me of incompetence. If that's what's happening there, where you fire Peter DeBoer and you have no clear, obvious line of succession in place, you're going to take a roster that is set to win right now and set it back God knows how far.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, they already lost Stankoven. Come on.
Yeah. I I get it where they're coming from with the decision, but I can't say that I 100% agree with it. And boy, you better get this hire right, regardless of who you bring in. You better pay, Knobloch really sets a really terrible precedent here, doesn't he? Coming in partway through last season with Edmonton, and all he's done is make it to the Stanley Cup Final twice.
Right.
Hasn't even coached 2 full seasons for the Oilers and already has 2 Cup Finals appearances.
Right. Well, which, excuse me, which we talked about already, maybe not on the show, but just personally, that, oh my God, what a budding rivalry. They've made it to the Cup, both these teams, 2 years in a row, and then especially with the way Game 1 and Game 2 went this year. Oh my gosh, like these teams could not be further away from each other geographically. But if it happens again next year, oh man, this is definitely going to be a rivalry.
Oh yeah, this is setting up for something for a long, long time. Well, speaking of setting up for go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, but yeah, with DeBoer, I mean, look at it. Okay, well, we'll take an analogy from our sport, from college basketball. If you make the tournament, you're typically safe in terms of your job status, unless you do something absurdly wrong or morally wrong or whatever. Like I feel like that state standard should apply to the NHL.
You would think. Now, I wouldn't be surprised if we get some stuff that comes out that there was friction between the ranks, and this was something that, was a long time in coming, and we finally just realized that now was the time, and all those kinds of those typical PR type face saving comments that we hear from GMs and presidents and things like that when all of a sudden the worms crawl out of the woodwork kind of a thing. But yeah, it's a bold move, Cotton. We'll see if it pays off for him.
Oh my God, spot on.
So, all right. Well, let's take one more quick little break here. And then when we come back, I do want to talk some PWHL before we get out. We had the expansion draft yesterday that finished and wrapped up yesterday. Wow, these Vancouver and Seattle teams. Wow, do they look good right out of the gate? I want to talk a little bit about that next. You are tuned in here to the Neutral Zone here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Be right back after this.
Hello, everyone. My name is Daryl Kinsey Jr., and I'm welcoming you to take another lap with the fastest show on IE Sports Radio. Yes, this is the Extra Mile with me and my co-hosts Christopher Lehman and Michael Ward. We talk everything racing from NASCAR to IndyCar to Formula One to limited hydroplanes, endurance racing, the NHRA, and more. So come join us for an hour of great racing talk and a lot of fun as well on the Extra Mile, Thursdays at 8 p.m. only on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Everybody, this is Taryn Rodriguez. Are you a fan of volleyball? Are you a fan of Thunder Spikes? Then I have the show for you, Set Point, where I cover NCAA men's and women's volleyball, high school boys and girls volleyball, beach volleyball, and even professional volleyball. Catch the action every week here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
And welcome back into the Neutral Zone here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Adam and Zach back here with you for a couple more minutes before we wrap things up with our show here tonight. And we will have a programming note for you regarding next week's episode as well. So be sure to stick around for that. All right. Lots of men's hockey through the first part of the show. Understandably, we got the Stanley Cup Final. We got all kinds of NHL news, but the PWHL, we are not to ignore the PWHL, the Minnesota Frost back-to-back champions, looking like they might be in the midst of building a dynasty. And then the expansion draft occurred. Seattle and Vancouver getting to pick players off of the other 6 rosters to help create their rosters to get this thing jump started. And wow, there were some talented players that are going to wind up playing in new cities this coming fall and winter. Zach, what were some of your thoughts out of that expansion draft for Vancouver and Seattle?
For sure. So just so everybody knows, same salary cap restrictions as the league's other 6 teams. They don't actually tell you what the salaries are. But league limited existing teams to initially protect only 3 players before being allowed to add a 4th after they lost 2 different players. My initial reaction, Vancouver was big on defense. Seattle was big on offense. So the 2 teams playing in this year's the Walter Cup, it was Minnesota and Ottawa, right?
Correct.
Okay. So they definitely went with the 2 teams. They went big on both teams that were in the title series. So there are a lot of Ottawa players, a lot of Minnesota players. Vancouver went number 1. They went with Ottawa defenseman Ashton Bell. And then Seattle with number 2 pick went with Ottawa defenseman Anita Tehralova. So Ashton Bell's going to join former Minnesota tandem Claire Thompson and Sophie Jacques, plus 2 more two-time defending champs, Brooke McQuiggy and Denisa Krzyzova for Vancouver. So, wow, holy crap. As well as they also signed the Ottawa goalie Emmerin Smashmeyer. So, yeah, I think Vancouver especially is going to be really loaded coming into this first year of their existence.
Yeah.
And for as much as we said Vancouver was defense and Seattle went more offense, if you look at who they actually drafted in the first round, Vancouver with 2 defensemen and 5 forwards. So that's technically more offense. And whereas Seattle went with 3 forwards and 4 defensemen, so more defense. So it's maybe they were just meant the first couple picks were more defense for Vancouver and more offense for Seattle.
Yeah, a little more balanced overall. But yeah, the one thing that just jumped out at me, and I saw some people on Twitter raising a fuss about this, but it makes sense to me when you stop and think about it. There's a lot of really, really talented players that didn't get protected. And it's wow, the quality of players, like Hillary Knight is going to Seattle, Ashton Bell going to Vancouver, some really, really, really good players. But then I stop and think about it. You think about with the NHL, it's like, wow, this is just, you wouldn't see this many players. Of course, then Vegas came in and really just wrecked the whole curve there. NHL GMs lost their minds in that draft, or it was, oh yeah, wait, we can't just let them have all the good players. But here, there's not 30 teams in the PWHL. There's 6.
Yeah.
There were going to be really, really, really good players that you couldn't protect everybody. And the PWHL,
for sure.
Yeah. And the PWHL is still at a point in its existence where there's an imbalance there between the talent with the team, the number of teams, and the amount of available talent. And it's right now, there are just more available talented players than there are teams at the moment in this league. And so I think that's part of why we saw some really, really, really good and really talented players wind up getting moved in this draft, in this expansion draft. They do have the full rookie draft is coming up here in a few days as well. So we'll keep our eyes out open for that. We'll be ready for that. But the Seattle and Vancouver teams, whenever they come around to picking nicknames, who knows? Maybe in the PWHL, they might, the entire league went a season where nobody had names. That might be the thing that they do when an expansion team comes in, is they might just, for honorary reasons, just hold off on releasing a nickname until they've established themselves for a season. But Seattle and Vancouver certainly should be competitive in their first season. I think that is absolutely something that we'll see and we'll recognize from this. Well, that is going to do it for our show here tonight. Zach, I'm glad you were able to get snuck back in here for the end. I think that's gonna do it, and that's gonna wrap it up for our show here tonight. Some big shout outs and thank yous. Thank you to each and every one of our sponsors here at IE Sports Radio. Planet Jerky, premium brisket beef jerky, the jerky that's on a whole other planet. Go to planetjerky.net to place your order. Vital Apparel, the brand that not only fits great, but also promotes and donates to mental health research. Go to vitalapparel.com to place your order. And when you do, at checkout, use the promo code IESR and get 15% off of their comfortable and inspiring gym wear. Seal the Deal Wax Seals. You're still sending out mail. You're still putting flyers and things like that out there. Let everybody know that it's got your official seal of approval. Go to iesportsradio.com/seal the deal wax seals. Cecilia B will help you come up with your very own stamp. And of course, thank you to IE Sports Radio for providing the platform that makes this show possible. Be sure to follow along on Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, and subscribe on YouTube at IE Sports Radio. We do this show every single Tuesday night. Next week, we might be at the same time. If there's a Game 6, we will not be at the same time. If there is a Game 6 next Tuesday night, we will come on and do a post-game show for you. So be sure to stick around for that, but we'll have more info on that for you as we get closer. Saturday night, for sure, we will know what we're doing. Thank you to Larry B. Thank you also to everybody that was hanging out in the chat room with us. Dan Rodriguez, Brian Francione, Josh Ritter. Thank you to those guys. Thank you to Zach. Thank you also to Brian for hanging out with us tonight. Have a great week, everybody. Zach, what do we always tell the people?
Stay on the healthy box. Go the boards. Check the 5-hole and light the lamp, baby.
Sounds good. He is Zach. I am Adam. Together we do this crazy thing called the Neutral Zone every week. Until next Tuesday, we'll see you then. Have a great week, everybody.